Yay. Hello, everybody. Kim Jakes here, and I'm so excited for the opportunity to interview one of my good friends, Caryn White, all the way from Singapore, who's with us today to talk about midlife and excitingly to also introduce the concept around an online virtual summit that we are co-hosting in the beginning of June, all around midlife. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this topics of what is midlife and why does it matter and what is the season? And no better person to have that conversation with than Caryn White. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kim Jakes. I'm a midlife health and lifestyle coach coming to you live from Wilmington, North Carolina. And really excited to be able to bring this conversation to the forefront. So, Caryn is also just an extraordinary woman. She has been an international expat for a very long time out of New Zealand. She moved to Australia, she moved to China, she moved to Singapore, has two lovely children, an amazing husband, and decided to make a midlife shift at during a pandemic in order to be able to embrace her true life. So would love to be able to just ask you a few questions, Caryn, starting off with, is there anything else that you'd like to share just around your life in general and why you're so excited to be able to step into this conversation?
Yeah, no, thank you, Kim. It was such a lovely introduction. Exactly what you said. I've lived outside of New Zealand since 2003. A lot of the time in Australia, but then Singapore, went to China, then came back to Singapore now. And I just don't think I realized where I would be right now if I look back like 20 or so years ago. And I think I'm so grateful to be where I am and to have this opportunity to co-host this event that we've got coming up with Maria, of course. Yeah, it's an exciting time, but it's so different, I think, to what I thought it would have been like. And I think that's why we've all talked about, the three of us, is about really helping other people like ourselves that are feeling like in this midlife time, right? And they're feeling like that this is what it isn't what they thought it would be, but like now they have a choice, right? And I think so. Yeah, I'm excited to speak to you today and just have a few questions and talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kick it off then. I mean, first of all, you mentioned you didn't really know or had a different picture of what now would look like back when you were younger, right?
Yeah.
So, when you were in your 20s, what was your image about what midlife might look like? And how does that compare to how you feel about it now?
Yeah, I would never have imagined that I would be living here. I always had the idea of an adventure, but I think in my mind, I'm like, I want something more. And I always thought that was just like things, doing things, all that stuff. I did feel like, I mean, being brought up, seeing my parents supposedly be like thinking 40 was midlife as such. And I think I had that picture that, you would have the house, the kids, the husband, that kind of stuff. You'd be in a job, like working for someone else. I never imagined that I would be a business owner. I never imagined that I would be exploring as a life and mindset coach. That was never, I don't even think that was something that I could have thought about. And I think it's quite different now where I look at it, I'm like, I never would have imagined I would live in China. Like, that's just not something. I mean, I've said this to so many people before, is when you're in New Zealand, you're at the beach and you're digging a hole. And because China's in the middle of the world, you're digging a hole to China. And that's your image of it, right? So I think having that opportunity to live in other countries quite outside of what I'm used to and exploring that has just opened an entire new world and a different way of thinking to me, and an appreciation. And I think those things are things that fill me, that mean more to me than actually having those material things around. So yeah,
Yeah.
quite different, I think.
Yeah, there's this concept that in the first half of our life, since we're talking midlife, in the first half of our life, we're more prone to living out our conditioning, right? What we absorb around us in our youth as the shoulds. And for you, that was really, the job, the family, the location. Did you think you were going to stay right in New Zealand, like in your 20s? Did you
Um,
imagine they were going to be?
I think when you're in New Zealand, because Australia is so close, it was sort of like, oh, it'd be great to go, to go live over there and explore it. Um, Always liked the idea. Thought maybe we might do like a time away, like take a break from careers and live overseas to be able to explore that. But not like we have. Definitely not. I'm so fortunate, as you said, like with my husband's role, job, he's been able to move us, we've been able to move around with that, and to have that opportunity to work and live in different countries, and to be able to bring our kids with us as well,
Yeah,
and help them
what
explore.
a different concept you're
Yeah,
providing your children
yeah,
than
no,
you were
definitely.
provided. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's yeah, I think you look at that and we know we've made sacrifices, and they're things that our children will miss out on and that we have as well. I mean, obviously living away from family and close friends, but at the same time, I wouldn't give that experience up. It's yeah, it's something quite special. So it's definitely, but I think at this point in life, if I'd lived here, say 20 years ago, I wouldn't have the same frame of mind, like the mindset that I have, because I would have thought that I still would have had to have that career, right? Reach that point in my career, and to be saving for that house, to, that lifestyle. I wouldn't have been in the mindset now, understanding to let go of some of that and actually look at it and go, what do I actually want? Like, what do I truly want, as opposed to what I've been told I should have at this
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. And not only have you done that for yourself, but now that is your mission, your career
Yeah,
mission is to really
exactly.
help others be able to open up to all of those new concepts and the freedom of
Yeah,
thinking. Hmm.
exactly. No, exactly. The freedom, exactly. Freedom. That's a great
Hmm.
word.
So here we are at this midpoint in life, um, having completed some of the shoulds, made big transitions that you weren't expecting. And now you're in this place where you have redesigned your life completely.
Yeah.
What do you envision now for the next half of your life?
Yeah, I just that word you used before, freedom. I think it is that freedom of choice. I think it's exciting, like it's scary where I am, but it's also exciting. And I think it's that realizing that I don't yet have that path written. Like it isn't going to be, I also know that it's not going to be what I think it's going to be right now. I have an idea of where I see it being. And a vision is like, being surrounded by nature, being by the ocean. Those things are key. Being around with people that I love and care about, doing something that I love and care about, like really truly enjoy, um, and just having that freedom of choice to be able to do that. But I also know that the path there is going to be up and down. And that's why I think this work that I'm doing on myself and also help others with is so important, because it is about, helping build myself up, becoming aware of who I am, so that when I get those really low points, I can get through that and come back up.
Mm,
And I think it's really understanding that life is not going to be just smooth sailing. There's going to be like little ups and downs, and that's okay.
mm,
And each time I go through those ups and downs, I'm able to come back, and it's not as tough as it was last time.
mm.
And focusing on those learnings as opposed to getting really stuck in that rabbit hole. And that's a lot of what I do on myself as well, and just really trying to support my family through that as well. And that's what's important, I think, is just being happy in myself, like right now as well. So that's probably another thing, is the present moment, the mindfulness around it as
Mhm.
well is really important.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that when you were talking about your perspective of what it would look like from your 20s to midlife, it was all about accomplishments and
Yes.
acquisitions. And now
Yeah.
for the second half, your languaging is really about feelings and
Mm.
values. And do you feel like that? Are you
Yeah.
seeing people in midlife? I'm feeling that in myself very strongly, but are you seeing that in others around you in midlife who are navigating this time of midlife with some grace and ease, kind of making those sorts of transitions from acquisition and accomplishment to values and feelings?
Yeah. And I definitely think, it's realizing that, it's okay to not be liked necessarily by everybody. And it's not okay. It's okay to not necessarily be like, oh, that's okay, I can let go of that. Friendships potentially that you thought were really important at a point in time, the friends for a season, friends for a reason. It's not getting angry that you're losing that or that things haven't happened. It's really just looking at that and being really thankful for what you did gain out of that. And that's what I am seeing people. There are still people, there are lots of people that are struggling, I think, with this is what they thought they would have. And oh my gosh, why haven't I? And really focusing on that as opposed to seeing what they do have. And I know sometimes people go, oh, that's easy to say when you're not in the midst of it. And I do accept, like I myself have been through really tough times. And at the time you're like, why is this happening to me? You do have that language coming up. But I guess now reflecting, I'm realizing each time, like I was saying with the ups and downs, I'm realizing each time those things are happening, it's something completely out of my control sometimes. And it's really focusing on what I can control. And then that essentially would be myself and how I'm turning up. And I think I'm seeing more people, and I'm surrounding myself with people that are more in tune like that. But yeah, they have their tough times, and we do talk about it, and we have those, oh my gosh, but then it's really, they're able to push past that and see past it and really appreciate what they do have and be really thankful and grateful. And I think that's so lovely to be surrounded with people like that feel like that a lot of the time. And I think that's what we end up doing, don't we? We find our people, we found our tribes, and that those become like yourself, Maria, you find those people that you just click with, that just they're sort of in the same sort of headspace and maybe at different stages, but also wanting to support each other as well. And just sharing wisdom and learnings and all that kind of thing, just to sort of support each other to find their way where they're supposed to go, but not forcing each other into a particular midlife, what you're supposed to be. This is saying that you are going to be whoever you're going to be, as opposed to you need to be this person.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that why we're creating this Hello Midlife online summit, to be able to have people gather together of like mind who are interested in really elevating the conversation of what is possible in midlife and allowing for people to find one another through that common space and common value.
Exactly.
So one more question for you. And this really fascinates me. I literally was blown away when I discovered this, that the number one search term for midlife is midlife crisis. And when I first typed that, my heart went thunk, because of course we have an image of midlife crisis, like a 50-year-old man with a 20-year-old cheerleader and a Corvette, right?
Totally.
I mean, that's just normal. So I looked up the word crisis, and there are actually two definitions of crisis. The word crisis can mean a time of difficulty, right? And it can also mean a time when an important decision must be made. So my question to you is, if we were to define midlife crisis as a time where an important decision must be made, has there been an important decision that you've made in the midst of your midlife?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the most recent would have been to choose not to pursue a career in what I was doing. Some of the decision was made for me when we moved from China to Singapore. I was unable to get a pass with my workplace, but at the same time, I could have tried to get another job here in Singapore when I got here in the same sort of field or in something I was expert in. And to make that decision to not do that, really important. But there's been like definitely tough times of challenges with those voices in my head telling me, oh, it'll just be easy, just go back and, so definitely making that decision for myself, saying, no, I'm going to do this. This is what matters most to me. This is who I actually am. This is what I'm passionate about. But it's hard, because I also know that if I was to get a job, able to get a job in that field, I would be earning that amount of money right now, as opposed to, like, as a small business owner, going through all those learnings for myself and learning and growing my business. That's a big decision. So that for me would be the most recent one, I think, in terms of important decision for me to make, is to let go of that career that I thought, which is part of what I would have thought when I was in my 20s, that I'd be working for a company. And I always wanted to work for an international company, ideally in a foreign place, doing this big job. And yeah, it was really great. I'm so thankful. There's some really great lessons in there, and there's some really great, amazing friendships that I've made and connections I've made, but I needed to let that go.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say not only did you make the decision to let that go, but you made the decision to listen to the mindset chatter that is typically negative for everybody. There's no judgment of self or anybody else if they have negative mindset chatter, because that is 100% normal. There's statistics that say that only about 3 minutes of every hour is positive mindset chatter in our mind. I mean, it's some ridiculous, I'm getting the numbers wrong, but it's some ridiculous percentage of the day. And so, A, the ability to say, I'm making this lifestyle choice, and B, I'm doing it despite the fact that my mind is battling me all along the way.
Exactly.
And I think that we're not alone, right? Like, for anybody who's listening here, raise your hand to yourself if you have a desire inside your heart to do something different, like a midlife urgency, a midlife voice that is coming out and saying, wait a minute, isn't there something more? And being able to surround yourself with tribes people who are doing just that. And that's what the Hello Midlife Summit is going to be all about. Caryn will be one of the co-presenters. I'll be one of the co-presenters. Maria Davis will also be one of the co-presenters. You'll be hearing me interview her in 2 weeks. I will be putting a link to the Eventbrite down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's down below in the description. If you're on Facebook, it's down below in the comments. Wherever else this is, it's down below somewhere, because we'll figure out a way to put it down below. But I just wanted to thank you, Caryn, for hopping on here and chatting about this big topic of midlife, because it's so individual. And yet I think there's so much rich commonality amongst everyone sitting in isolation with their thoughts. So thanks so much.
No, thank you. Grateful.
Yes.